In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 10 rabbit care mistakes you may be making. So the first one is not providing your rabbits with enough space.
Now, I'm not even going to go into detail too much about cages and hutches, because if you know anything about proper rabbit care, you would know that free roaming is the way to go. However, if you cannot free roam, then using an X pen is the second best option, but you have to make sure that it is large enough. So 3 by 2 by 1 meters is the minimum for an X pen, and you also want to make sure that you have enough room in the X pen for them to exercise, so Binky and Zoomy, and also allowing them to have some free roam time as well. I personally free roam my rabbits in my room, and they definitely use all that space. So next is not providing the right water bowl. I just wanted to start off by saying that if you're using a water bottle, throw those away right now, because water bottles are a big no-no when it comes to rabbits. So there are so many reasons why water bottles are bad for rabbits, but a few of the main ones is that it just doesn't allow them to drink enough water. If you look at a rabbit, you'll notice that their mouth is at the bottom of their face, so drinking out of a bowl is just way more natural for them and more comfortable, because if they are to drink out of a bottle, they are forced to arch their head, and that can cause back and neck issues over time. And often I see people commenting, well, my rabbits tip over their bowls. And the reason for this is usually because they are using the wrong water bowls. So when picking out a water bowl for your rabbits, you want to make sure that it is large, ceramic and heavy, and that will ensure that your rabbits will not tip over their water. Number 3, not providing your rabbits with enough hay. Hay should make up at minimum 80% of your rabbit's diet, so you want to make sure that it is available to your rabbits 24/7. So there are a few different ways that you can provide your rabbits with hay, most commonly in the litter box, but you can also use a hay rack or hay bag, and you can also provide it in enrichment toys. So I see a lot of people providing hay in these tiny little hay racks with little openings in them, which make it difficult for your rabbits to easily access the hay, and that is not what you want to do. You don't want to make it a challenge for them to eat hay. You want it to be easily accessible so they can eat as much as they can, because that is what keeps their GI system going. So going along with that brings me to my next point, not providing your rabbits with a large enough litter box. So can we please stop using those tiny corner litter boxes? They are way too small and your rabbit will not be able to even fit in there. So if you've got one of those, toss that out immediately and get yourself a large cat litter box or even a storage container. I find that even cat litter boxes are too small for my 2 rabbits, so I use a large storage container instead, which I find to be a much better size, because once again, you want to make it very easy for them to access hay and eat as much as they can. So a good way to test if your rabbit's litter box is big enough is you want to make sure that they can do a 360-degree turn comfortably. And remember, the larger the litter box you can get, the better, because that will just encourage good hay eating habits and it will just make them feel more comfortable when using the litter box. So this next one may be a little controversial, but it is something that I strongly believe in, and this mistake is not getting your rabbit a friend. So I'll admit that when I first got my rabbit, I had no intention of getting a second one. However, I did feel as though he wasn't as happy as I feel like he could have been if he did have a companion. Just judging by what I've seen online, how 2 rabbits interact with each other, I just felt like it was an important thing and he was missing out on it. So I did make the decision to go and adopt a second rabbit, and I'm so happy that I did, because there is just such a huge difference of having 2 rather than having 1, and I can just tell how important it is for rabbits to be in pairs or more. They are social animals, and in the wild you wouldn't really find them alone, so I believe it's very important for them to have a companion, and if you do have 2, you'll notice how great of a decision it is. They constantly are grooming each other and they're just always together. They always have a companion and they're never lonely, so it's definitely an important thing. So if you don't have 2 rabbits, then this is your sign. I will admit that bonding is hard and it takes a lot of effort. It took mine a month to bond, and I did feel like it wasn't going to work out, but I kept going. And make sure that you do research proper bonding methods before bonding, but in the end I did get there, and you can too. So the next one is feeding too many pellets. Pellets should only make up a small amount of your rabbit's diet if you do feed pellets. I know a lot of people who don't feed pellets and are actually against it. However, I do choose to feed my rabbits a small amount of pellets daily, and I just make sure that it is a good quality pellet. I feed Oxbow's selective natural pellets. I find that they've got the best ingredients from what I've seen. If you have any other recommendations, leave them in the comments. But I like how Oxbow's natural select pellets doesn't contain any soy or cane molasses. However, I do often see people online feeding their rabbits large quantities of pellets, really more than they should be getting. And also, I do see a lot of people feeding the incorrect type of pellets. When picking out your pellets, you want to make sure that it is high quality hay-based pellets. Definitely don't feed any of those seed type mixes. I don't even want to call them pellets because they're not. They look like seed mixes that are for birds. So I don't know why they're made for rabbits anyways, because rabbits can't digest seeds or nuts or corn. So make sure you are feeding high quality hay-based pellets if you do decide to feed pellets. But just make sure that you're not feeding too many pellets. I feed my rabbits 1 tablespoon of pellets broken into 2 feedings, and I always provide it in some sort of enrichment activity, which brings me to my next point, which is not providing enough enrichment for your rabbits. So it's important to remember that rabbits are natural foragers and they love to forage for things. That's what they would be spending their day doing if they were out in the wild. So for rabbits in captivity, it is good to keep that behavior going, and it does really help with stimulating their brains and preventing them from getting bored. I do have a whole separate video about rabbit enrichment on my channel if you want to go check that out for some ideas. But a few of my rabbits' favourite enrichment activities include snuffle mats, stacking cups, treat balls, and foraging bags and bowls. So the next care mistake is one that I see a lot more often than I would like to, and that is using harnesses on your rabbits. I do unfortunately see a lot of people online who take great care of their rabbits using harnesses, which definitely doesn't help with the situation. If anything, it promotes it and makes it seem like it's okay. But rabbits are not dogs, they don't like going on walks, and they're very fragile, and it's also important to remember that they are prey animals, so they get scared very easily, especially being outdoors where they are exposed to a lot of different noises, which they will definitely get scared of, and if they were to make a sudden movement, they can seriously injure themselves or even break their bones because of how fragile they are from the pressure of the harness. So if you really want to take your rabbits outside, then that is completely fine, but instead of using a harness, just use an X-pen instead.
And the next one is not providing hides.
So the general rule that I like to go by for my rabbits is 2 hides with 2 exits, as well as a tunnel per setup. I find that that really works well with my rabbits. They really love their hides, they love to sleep in them during the day, and they also really like their tunnel. I would probably say that's their favourite out of the hides. So if you don't have a tunnel already for your rabbits, then I would definitely recommend getting one because they will love using it. And finally, we have reached the 10th common care mistake, and that is not using an exotic vet. So before getting your rabbit, you want to make sure that you have an exotic vet in your area, because rabbits are exotic animals. You can't just go and take them to a regular vet because they are specialized in dogs and cats, and they won't have the same amount of information or knowledge about rabbits compared to exotic vets. So if you want a good one that knows what they're doing, you should definitely look into if you've got one in your area, because your rabbits will definitely need to see the exotic vet at some point in their lives, so making sure you have one near you is very important. So that is all for today's video. Those were 10 common rabbit care mistakes that I often see, and I hope you enjoyed or learnt something new. I know that I definitely would have benefited from a video like this when I first got my rabbits, but that is all for today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!